I'm Damo Rees. I'm the Bearded Viking Axemaster. Originally from rugby, I was in rugby for all my life, but now I've got an axe throwing range in Wynne and been there for 6 months, and I teach people how to throw axes. So we opened December 2023. I took the premises on in November 2023. It took me a month to build it, and then opened December the 8th, 2023. Nerve-wracking time, and yeah, it's been all good since then. So 6 months in now, yeah.
And where are you based?
So based at the old depot in Wynne. So it's a huge historical military site. The largest part is called the depot. The part we're in is called the stores. And not a lot of people know about the stores because it's sort of on the back of the depot. But it's owned by the same people, same landlord and same management. But it's technically called the stores. It's the old ammunition stores it's been there 200 years. Well, it's part of a franchise, which is a new venture for the chap. So I met this guy, Lewis Hickman. He is the original Bearded Viking, and I did a lot in the beard community for many years, over the last 8 or 9 years, and that's how we met. And then I'd sort of done a lot of work online with him. I had my own beard community going on. I used to go to beard competitions, and we got quite pally over on the online. I met him a couple of times at beard competitions, and I bumped into him at a medieval festival in Evesham. And he'd just finished. We went for a couple of beers, and he said, "Oh, I'm doing an axe throwing range." He'd had it. I think he probably had it for about a year at this point, and he said, "But I'd like to open another one, and I think you'd be a perfect character for it. You'd be the perfect sort of person." And that sowed the seed there. But what I probably hadn't realised is before that, I'd seen him on his Instagram building his axe throwing range already, and I remember thinking, I could do that. And I'm one for sometimes if I go, I could do that, I end up doing it. And I've done loads of things like that. It's just something must have been in there. I could do that. And then it just sort of all fortuitously came together. In June 2023, we had that conversation in Evesham, and then November, we got the place, in December we're open. So. It's my first go at having a proper business where I've actually registered as a limited company, had to get myself an accountant and do everything properly. I've had some other goes at being self-employed and done lots of different bits and bobs, and I've sort of gone full circle. I had a small business years ago that didn't work. I created a product that we tried to sell, it didn't work. After that I did a lot of stuff in the beard community, and that was okay for 2 years, but it wasn't making me enough income. I'd gone back into full-time employment because I needed some security and some money, and I'd done that for 8 months. Hated it with a passion, and then I came round to this again, and I think part of that journey has helped me get to where I am, to go, actually, yeah, let's go for it, let's do it, I want to get going. So yeah, it's been good. It's different from the security of being employed, but it's a different kind of different. I like the variety of what I'm doing. It ticks a lot of boxes for me, but I've had to do a lot of different things to realise what I like, what I enjoy, and to get to this place. I think with anything in life, when you want to make a change, and it's a big change to go from full-time employment to become an entrepreneur and start your own business, it's either a massive drive and a massive passion for what you want to do, or it's a real hatred for what you're currently doing, and I think that's where I was at. I was embarrassed to tell people what I did for a living. And I used to knock on doors and sell broadband. I got tricked into it. They told me it was a whole different thing. But long story short, I was knocking on doors and selling broadband. And people would say to me, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I'm 43 years old. And I'm like, I knock on people's doors and try and sell them broadband. And I hated it. I was embarrassed. It was soul destroying for me, because I've done lots of other careers in my time. I was a drug and alcohol worker for 4 years. I was a prison officer for 4 years. I was an ambulance call handler, 999 service. I've done some real reputable, decent jobs, you know. And I'd gone full circle and ended up back doing sales, knocking on doors. And I was like, what am I doing? This can't be me. I've got more than this. I had all these brilliant ideas as well. For the company I was working for, I was littering their marketing team. Why don't we do this? Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And they're like, yeah, we could do that. And we tried a little bit of that. And I'm thinking I could develop a role here into. And then I suddenly thought, why am I coming up with all this stuff for somebody else? Why am I not doing this for my own business? And then the timing came together nicely with Lewis and the offer of, do you want to set up a franchise? He was going to help support. That was a big help for me, because as much as I had the will and the ideas and that, I needed that little bit of extra support to get over the line. But yeah, I started because I basically hated what I was doing, and my brain is always working with loads of cool ideas for stuff I could be doing. I thought it's time for me to be doing this for me, not for somebody else. and that's how I got there. So my marketing strategy was phenomenal, years of practice, and it started with, if you build it, they will come. That was it. So literally, I guess I was scared to promote it, to talk about it, or to even mention it to anyone until it was built. And by me saying, oh, if I build it, they'll come, that was my way out of having to do any actual marketing, because I was fearful that, what if I do tell everyone about this and they start wanting to make bookings and I haven't built it yet? And so it was a double-edged sword. So me saying, yeah, build it and it'll come, it was it was kind of cool, because I've got friends that do marketing. They're like, oh, what's your strategy? And it's like, in their minds, they're probably like, what's he doing? He needs to market it. And I'm like, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Once I'd built it and it was ready to go, I was still faffing around doing other bits of building that didn't need doing. And I got to the point I'm like, I need to open. I need to tell people about this. So I went for it, and December the 8th, and I wanted to start much before that, but December the 8th, we were like, right, we're open, we're going to take bookings. And nothing happened. Oh, actually, that strategy was terrible. Build it and they'll come. They won't. You have to tell people about it. So I crammed then very quickly. I did loads of marketing of everything I could do. Although it's a franchise, I'm on my own. It's my business, in my name, and it's all, I'm responsible for it. So I just went and did everything I could do for as cheap as possible. I'd spent way more money than I thought I was going to do on building it. Wood is really expensive, and it's all made of wood. So yeah, I got out Facebook, some cheap ads, but as much social organic reach as I could do. I had quite a following from the beer community anyway. Friends and family told everybody about it, and then went around all the local businesses, dropping them leaflets, got some leaflets done, and everybody I spoke to, from the checkout at Tesco's to the McDonald's drive-through, I'm telling them about it. I'm always wearing my hoodie, and I tell everybody everywhere I go all the time about axe throwing. And luckily, I've sold lots of different things in the past, but this is probably one of the easiest things I've had to sell, because it's niche, it's exciting, a lot of people haven't heard of it, it's brand new to the area, so it's actually been quite easy to market. I've been very lucky in that respect, because that previous business I did a couple of years ago, it was really difficult. It was a brand new concept, so to explain it and market it needed way more. Whereas this is pretty obvious. Like, I teach people how to throw axes. It's Viking themed. I look like a Viking. It's a really cool thing to do. Do you want to come and do it? I tell everybody. So that's my strategy. And I think part of the question, actually, if I remember rightly, is how has it changed? So that was December, and I thought, oh, Christmas parties, there'll be loads of people. Christmas parties will be really busy. Everybody's already booked their Christmas party 6 years ago, right? So no one was phoning me up in early December to say, you got any space for a Christmas party? Because they were all done. I was like, oh dear, I've missed a boat with that. I did get a lot of gift vouchers as presents, which was kind of cool. But the strategy has changed over the months, because I've realised that although I've got a consistent advert out there now, which is just not expensive for me, just to keep the brand awareness out there, I'm still doing 6 months later all the things I was doing before, leaflet dropping and chatting to businesses. But now I've probably added in, tried to do a little bit of radio, I've tried to do a little bit of paid sponsorship, like I supported the health charity with a golf day, doing stuff like this, and a lot of networking. I've done the networking from day dot, and I do that consistently, because that's a great way for me to get the word out there. But I can see it changing again. As you know, we were talking this morning about banners and things. There's always so much more I can do. I've always got a million ideas. Everyone I talk to has got a million ideas of what I could do, and it's being a solo entrepreneur. So if I could sit in front of the computer for a week, I'd do loads. But I'm also teaching. I'm also building the range and repairing the range. I'm doing everything. So I do as much marketing as I can when I've got time. And I think if all of a sudden I've got no customers, then boom, yeah, I'm going to do a week solid marketing. But right now, the balance is okay. The flow is working. I'm getting enough people in from what I'm doing, so it's kind of working okay. So yeah, we're based at Wynne, and there was quite a bit of research into this actually. So Lewis's place is down in Chatham in Kent, and he's in an old fort. It's called Fort Luton, so an old military site, and it lends itself really well to the nature of axe throwing. This is rustic Viking axe throwing, so it doesn't need to be in a posh high street, expensive place. It needs to be something rustic and historic, the better. So I looked around everywhere for sort of historical type sites, and it's not easy to find something that you can rent and do axe throwing in. So I was looking on Rightmove a lot. I was just going on Google, but I was also considering just like a farmer's old barn, and lots of different options depending on lots of different budgets. And it took me quite a lot of time in that, from sort of June when the idea was set to getting the place in November. But I knew about the depot because I'd been down to there in Wynne a couple of times, to some of the shops down there, and I thought that would be ideal. And I went down there, and some popped up on Rightmove, but they were just way too expensive. But in the stores on the back, the different setups, so it was a little bit cheaper, and I thought actually I might be able to do this. Let's go and have a look. Walked in there and I'm like, yeah, this we could make this work here. It's not ideal, but we could make this work here. And we sort of went and had a chat over the road. Lewis came up to have a look at it as well, and we're like, yeah, let's go for it. Got back to them, said, yeah, we'll take it. They came back and said how much it was, and it's like, hang on, that's more than it said on Rightmove. I'm out. So I couldn't afford it. I was like, and I was devastated. I got to the point where we were, yes, let's go, let's say yes. And then the money changed, and it was like, oh no, that's not what I was expecting it to be. I can't afford that. I can't risk that. I can't do it. I'm going to have to find somewhere else. And I thought I'm going to be in a farmer's barn somewhere. And I considered the option of doing it mobile, because Axthrowing you could do mobile at festivals, but I really wanted a place where I could make it home and make it work. And so I didn't park the idea. I was just looking again for other places, and then it might have been a month or 3 later, another one came up at the same place, and I went back and I thought, I've got to have it. I want to have it. And as it turns out, this one is a bit further down. It's probably better than the one that I'd seen previously for my needs. And then I got it, and I thought, I'm having it, and we're doing it. So yeah, got that location. It's perfect. There was a lot of research done actually, although I mentioned my marketing strategy wasn't that in depth. The research for the location was, because where it was set, I made sure there was no other axe throwing ranges nearby, certainly no indoor ones. And also most axe throwing ranges are in city centres with other things, and I wanted this to be a destination where it's just axe throwing on its own in a more spectacular place. So it ticked all the boxes for that, but location-wise, it's perfect. Where I'm based in Wynne, although no one's heard of Wynne, and you can't say it a lot on social media because Wynne gets flagged because of drugs, but it's nothing to do with drugs. I have to say Northants a lot more than, don't take that out. Northants, but where it is beautiful for the M1 A45. It's like, it's got all of Northampton, which is a huge city. There's Rugby, Daventry, Towcester, all of the villages. People will travel 45 minutes to an hour to do axe throwing at a decent place. And so the catchment area where it's based is perfect, and there was a lot of work went into that. And I think that lends itself to part of the success as well, the location where it's at. Yeah, that's a great question, and I had to double down on this a little bit a couple of months ago. I thought, what are my unique selling points? Why am I different from other people? Because axe throwing is a growing industry. Like over in America, it's huge. It's on ESPN. There's big competitions, big prize money, and it's quite a saturated market from what I can work out over there. There's axe throwing ranges 10 a penny, even in such a vast place as America. And they're ahead of us. So I think we're traditionally a little bit behind, a couple of years behind, but it's growing here. So I don't know what the future will be, but right now, presently, it's a growing thing. And there are new axe throwing ranges popping up everywhere. Nobody's really dominating the market. There's a couple of branches that have got 4 or 5 ranges, a couple of companies have got 4 or 5 ranges, and that's it really, but there are new ones popping up all the time. And so I wanted to be quick, wanted to get in there, get mine set up. But where I'm different from all the other ones is, well, it's Viking themed, so that's different from anywhere around here. There are some other Viking themed ones up north, but I realised one of the differentiators is the venue. The venue is amazing. It's big. It's probably the tallest axe throwing range that there is, because I made it a lot taller than most. Most are crammed into a small little unit or a small high street place. Mine's a lot bigger because I've got the height of the unit. It's historical because you've got all that space there. It's all decked out in a Viking theme, so it's more of an experience. It's not just you come and do axe throwing and there's a busy bar and there's noise and lights and other things going on. It's you're there for that experience and atmosphere of a Viking themed axe throwing. So that's one thing, it's Viking themed, and the venue. The other thing, trying to still be humble, is it's me that runs it, and I've been so impressed with all of the reviews and all of the feedback. It's like nobody can copy what I do and how I do it. The style of how I run the sessions and how I deliver the sessions and make sure everybody has a great time, you don't get that anywhere else. Down in Chatham and Kent, Lewis does a good job, but he's still not me. He can't do it the way I do it. And so one of the unique selling points that makes me different from anywhere else is you can go to any axe throwing range in the country, but I'm not there. And I really like to think that I am part of making it such a good experience. So me, Vikings, and the location, or the military style building, they're the three things that make me different from the competitors. I couldn't put it down to one thing. I think anything that you haven't experienced before, anything that's new, becomes a challenge immediately. I've got into a good place now where, I mean, when I first started off, I'd ran one session down in Chatham and Kent. I'd run one session for a group of 10 lads, and that was it. And then I think there was like, right, I'm getting my first customers in through the door now. I've got to deliver a really good session. And I was hella nervous. And I've been practicing for a lot, right, trying to get good at axe throwing. I'm all right now. But at the time, I'd say it was quite a challenge just to get those first set of people in and be brave enough to say, yes, come in, let me show you what I can do. But I tell you what, every time I threw it in the board, trying to show people how to do it, I was panicking inside, like, please go in, please go in, please go in. Because if it don't go in, you're going to look stupid. So that would be one challenge. I mean, there's other challenges, some of the big boy stuff behind the scenes where you've got to get an accountant, you've got to register your company, you've got to do your health and safety, you've got to do everything that's new is a challenge. I wouldn't say I've had one particular big challenge, but I've had lots of different things that I've had to overcome. And again, I'm still early doors in this. I'm only 6 months in, so I'm sure there's going to be many more challenges as the year goes on, as the years go on. You know, I'm not naive to think that, you know, it's new and it's fresh. I'm doing right now. Is it going to stay the same for 10 years? Hell no. You know, things change, you know. So I think the biggest challenges are yet to come. And I think the ones I've had so far, I've bashed my way through, jumped over, nipped around, stumbled through, I don't know, but still going. I think that the highlight actually was very unexpected. So in some of my previous roles, I've done some very rewarding stuff. And I've found that if you have a rewarding job that makes you feel good, the pay is usually terrible. So, for example, 999 ambulance service, answering the phones, and I saved someone's life, probably on numerous occasions, right? I helped be part of that. And that's really rewarding. You go home thinking, wow, I've done a real good job today, I've saved someone's life. But the pay is terrible. And the stress is horrendous, and the hours are terrible. So I've never experienced something where you can get paid all right and still have some reward. Now, I knew with the axe throwing business, I knew I was going to be proud to be a business owner. I knew I was going to enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I knew that if I do it right, I could make enough money to be able to pay all the bills and be all right. I had no idea that I was going to get this massive reward that came afterwards, which was the TripAdvisor reviews. Because it's good to get the name out there for your SEO, for your Google and your searches, so ask people to do reviews. And people have done reviews, but lots of them have come back with, Damo was a great host. Damo was amazing. He really got our group dynamic. Damo, and some people call me Darren. But I learned from that. I need to tell people my name's Damo. But the rewards for me are the people, the TripAdvisor reviews that come back and saying that how I'd made it special. And I've even had customers saying, "This is amazing. I'd like to come back. Is it just you that does it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because we would just want to do it with you because you were really good." And it's like that makes me feel so good inside. But I know that's from all the different things I've done throughout my careers. I've learned a lot about, you know, emotional intelligence, about reading people's dynamics and being able to tailor the groups, because I can teach kids from 10 years old. I think the oldest I've had is 89. And I've had stag do, so you get a group of 10 lads on a stag do, but then you might have a family of people. At Mother's Day, I had a gran, a mum and a daughter. So there's lots of different types of people that come in, different ages, different techniques, different abilities, and I have the skill set from all the stuff I've done to be able to tailor for that and change their session accordingly, and also keeping everybody safe. You know, it's you know, you're chucking them a sharp metal axe at a bit of wood. I've got all that experience, you know, from a prison environment of risk management and looking after people, talking to a group of people and managing people, and all of that lends itself to delivering a good session. But I never really expected anybody to acknowledge that and go, wow, that guy's good. And I've had that through TripAdvisor, and that for me is the biggest success, that people have said I've done a good job. Some of the characteristics that you definitely need is you need to be resilient, because things change all the time. There's hardships, there's stumbles in the road, right? You've got to be resilient, you've got to keep going. I would probably say the most significant one is being self-motivated. When it's on you and it's for you, you have to do it for you, and you're solely responsible for everything that happens. That's me talking from where I'm at, like doing this as much as on my own as I can be. Like Lewis is there, I have his website, and he's there, a supportive lending ear if I need it, but he's down in Kent and he's running his range and he's doing mobile action and he does beard care, so this is down to me. So you have to be self-motivated, you've got to get up every day. I'm responsible for doing the marketing, I'm responsible for getting the customers in, I'm responsible for making sure they have a good time, I'm responsible for everything. So self-motivated, resilient. I think you've got to be a little bit risky. It is a risk. There's no security in this, and for me, you've got to be brave to take on new things. So I remember sat in front of the computer, registering the company as a company. I was absolutely cacking my pants. I'm like, what am I doing? This is big. This is big boy stuff now. Yeah, I'm a 43-year-old grown man, but inside I'm still just a kid running around having fun chucking axes. And I'm like, this is proper. And you've got to be brave and go, I'm going for it. I'm doing it. And so I think being brave, taking a risk, and you know, what's the worst that can happen? What happens if you don't do it? What happens if you do it? What happens if you stay the same? I've always been a big advocate of change. So when I was a drug and alcohol worker, I was helping people change their habits. Even as a prison officer, helping people change their behaviour. I used to manage a gym as well, helping people change their health habits. So I've always been a big advocate of people changing. If you're not happy, change something. I wasn't happy, wanted to change it, but you've got to take a risk. You've got to commit to it. You've got to want to do it. You've got to be motivated. And I think getting into this entrepreneurial world, there's more of us nowadays, and we all have very similar traits. I think most of us, some people in the past would have thought we're a little bit crazy. We can probably now be labelled with neurodivergent or something. There's traits and personality styles and a way of our brains working that makes us want to be entrepreneurs. I've got a great pal, he's always busy at a million miles an hour doing all these different things, and he's like, yeah, I've got ADHD, this is what I do, this is it, but this makes me be really good at what I'm doing and having all these different ideas. So yeah, I think whether you want to call it crazy or whether you want to be, are there any normal people that do entrepreneurial stuff? I think human beings are just different. Some people want to stay at home and do that. Some people want to go and explore Antarctica. There's different types of people doing different types of things, and I think if you probably did a massive survey of all entrepreneurs and did some psychological testing, you'd be like, yeah. And maybe to answer this question better, you should interview all the successful ones, because I'm not there yet, and then tell me what else I need to do. Please, thanks. So yeah, if you would like to come down and try axe throwing with me, the Bearded Viking, just go on to www.tbvaxemasters.com. So that stands for the Bearded Viking Axemasters.com. Get yourself booked in, see when we're available, and come and try it. It's good fun.
So my name's Emma, started Gateway HR nearly 17 years ago. The reason I can remember that is because I started the year that my daughter was born. Like many small businesses, trying to decide when was the right time to do it, thinking of what to run my own business. So on maternity leave, and then to be fair, it was my husband who said it's kind of now or never. So otherwise we'll get used to having 2 salaries, and you'll never do it. So set up a HR consultancy, because my vision of HR is that it should be about giving employees the best experience at work, because then they deliver the best for your business or your charity or whatever your organisation is. Whereas quite often HR is seen as the people who you only get to see if something's wrong or they do the not so nice things, whether that's when somebody's done something they shouldn't, or maybe they're off sick, or there's been a complaint, which we do all of that as well. But we're very much of the belief that if you look after people, get the right people into your business, you don't have to do that very often. But we're there to hold your hand if you do. We're based in Corby, in Northamptonshire. In May, it'll be 10 years in Corby. Before that, we were in Kettering, and then when we outgrew the Kettering office, at that point there was nowhere in Kettering that was the right size, so we came to Corby. So based here, a lot of our clients are local, but we also have a lot of clients all over the UK, and quite a lot in London, which is handy because that's where my son's at uni, so it's a good excuse to go and see him too. You kind of start the business, then you're still, in my case, sat in your kitchen thinking, oh, so what do I do now? So at that point, I was still lecturing at the University of Northampton on the HR programme. So I didn't learn this from anywhere, but I just started talking about our business. It was always our business, so it sounded bigger than it was. It was just me in the kitchen with a 9-month-old baby. And then probably about a month in, one of my students came up to me and said, oh, my boss has asked me to ask you, do you do consultancy around kind of appraisals and performance management? Considering that's what I was teaching her as the lecturer. But I still remember thinking, oh, say yes, but also, so I said yes, because I thought, well, you're not going to not do that. And then got a 6-month contract with that business in Northampton, looking at everything they do in terms of performance and pay, all sorts of different things. So that kept me busy, or very busy, for 6 months. But then towards the end of the 6 months thinking, oh, I need to get another client now, won't I? And already starting to learn quite quickly that if you spend all your time working in the business, you're not doing anything to get the next client coming in. But I still have clients from that business now, 17 years later, because they've moved on to other businesses. So again, I learned quickly, not just because I'm within HR, but thinking it's all about building relationships. So it wasn't just with the HR director, it was actually the finance director who then moved on to another business. And then I moved to work with them. And I think I worked with them for about 7 or 8 years. Probably just with a bottle of wine and an early night, if there is such a thing with a 9-month-old. But I think it was still kind of like, oh, okay, that happened. And then thinking about marketing and all the things, even though I did my degree in business studies, at that point I had no intention of ever running my own business. So obviously I did pay attention because I got my degree, but never from the point of view of thinking, oh, I might do this myself. I think I paid somebody, I can't remember who, to design a logo, and I thought, that'll do. But actually it was quite dull, so we changed that, but not for another 4 years. Very basic website, which again, I can't remember, I got just somebody to build it for me. But then networking, certainly up to COVID, was the biggest part of the business in terms of marketing. And then now since after COVID, and we're allowed to see people again, getting back into networking. So quite lucky, I suppose, being a lecturer surrounded by HR people all the time. So quite a few students actually became clients, and actually quite a few of my students became staff members as well. So that was handy. So being able to do that. So yeah, mainly kind of word of mouth, going to networking, doing a lot of presentations at like small business events and things like that, to get across that message that, again, we can hold your hand through the tricky side of managing people, but actually if you get it right, treat people properly, we don't have to hold your hand that often. There's lots of things you can do in terms of policies, in terms of people's contracts. that making it very clear what they can't take with them. I mean, obviously, sometimes people will still do that. But also, again, educating managers around a leavers process. Is it what we sometimes call a friendly exit? So somebody is just leaving and they probably don't pose any risk to the organisation, through to if somebody's maybe leaving under a cloud, thinking, actually, do we need to remove passwords, remove access? Those kind of things. But also, maybe if somebody's going to self-employment and taking, from a HR point of view, to borrow or to reinvent, my advice to that person, apart from you probably shouldn't have done that, is making sure, thinking, well, is that going to fit the business that I'm about to set up? Because it might be that you're taking example policies from a much bigger organisation. You're going to employ maybe 3 or 4 people. You might be tying yourself into things that isn't going to fit within your organisation.
Yeah.
So, and we have over the years, because one of the things we do, which I forgot to mention, is we'll audit, people's HR documentation. And we just sometimes say we should write a book as to some of the funny things that we see. But we've seen small businesses who, when they actually read the employment contract, people are tied to 3 or 6 months' notice, which we always say from an employee's point of view. Obviously, people should honour their notice period, but if they don't, there's not an awful lot you can do as an employer. But the other way round, if you say we'll give you 3 or 6 months' notice if we ask you to leave, that's their contract. So you might be thinking, oh yeah, but they're only on a week's notice, and then you actually look at the document, you're like, oh. Potentially things like sick pay, if maybe moving from a larger organisation, or possibly borrowing something from a public sector organisation, and actually you've just promised somebody you'd pay them full pay for 6 months if they're off sick, which there aren't many small businesses that can afford to do that. So we always say, word of caution, really check the documents you're using. So the business is pretty much a 50-50 split. So we've got the HR side, so everything from our kind of entry-level product, which for a lot of people that's what the only thing that they buy from us, which is fine, which is our HR hub. So it's a online vaults, obviously available 24/7, of literally now hundreds of HR documents. So things like example contracts, policies, letters, but also lots of how-to guides or how not to, because sometimes it's easier to learn from other people's mistakes and think, particularly when it comes to managing people. And again, lots of videos. So for example, we've got a whole section around the 4-day week, so that's something that we do as a business. So you've got all the policies around that, but also videos with business owners as to why they do the 4-day week. So, and our kind of client base for that actually is about 50-50 for HR people, because it just makes their life easier, which I get. Why reinvent the wheel if you can just download something? But also, again, business owners or people who have responsibility for HR, but it's one of their many, many hats. So to be able to go somewhere, because I know a lot of people will Google documents or borrow them from friends, but that's kind of fraught with danger, because you don't know if that fits your business. Who wrote it? Is it up to date? Is it legally compliant? Whereas obviously we guarantee that everything on there is up to date and compliant with the law. So that's kind of the entry level. And then we have a monthly subscription service, which is anything from 1 employee up to 50, but our average is probably about 15 employees. And it's an unlimited access to the HR team during office hours, phone calls, emails, just to say, how do I do this? Or what can I do? Or quite often, is it okay to say this? And we sometimes say, no, it's not, but I'm really glad you asked us before you did. And they also get access to the hub and support that they need, right through to the other side of the HR is much bigger projects. So when I mentioned, like, my first client was 6 months working with them on their performance management system. So quite often they'll have a HR team, but they either need an extra pair of hands or an area of expertise. So again, sometimes putting things in like HR systems, and getting everything on there. So that's the HR side. Also, we do ad hoc. So somebody just needs us for something. Could you just do this? We can do that as well. And then the other half of the business, which is where I spend most of my time, is on the management development side. Because I know that usually when things go wrong with people, it's because managers don't know what they're doing. definitely find something you have a passion for, because running a business can be incredibly hard work, long hours, can be stressful, but equally if you love what you do, that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, something you really enjoy doing, something you can see yourself doing for hopefully a long time. And get the basics in rather than do it afterwards. So really think about, which I definitely didn't, thinking about marketing, where you're going to get your clients from, how are people going to know who you are, and also learn, again, what you're good at business-wise. So again, my first year in business, I attempted to do my own accounts. Took me a really long time, and then I had to pay for somebody to redo them, because that's definitely not my skill set. So I still think that's one of my first learning points, not just because of accounts. Think actually, if you're not good at something, pay somebody else to do it. Because probably, I was a small business of one, so probably the accountant, it probably took her a couple of hours, whereas it had taken me days and I still got it wrong. So I was thinking, well, I could earn however much out with clients and then pay somebody else to do that. So it's correct, which obviously, getting your taxes right is quite important, because otherwise you get into trouble. But it gives you that peace of mind. You think, actually, somebody else is looking after that. So it might be the same for aspects of your marketing. But again, make sure you get your personality across. How do you want to be seen? How do you want to be seen as a business? And how do you want to be seen as an employer once you start employing people? I think definitely growing the team. I love coming to work. I was one of those people that after I was like, please, can we go back to the office? Because I like being with people, but also seeing people develop. So quite a few of our past team members who, well, interestingly now are all clients, so we've gone full circle. But they've gone on to be like head of HR for quite big companies. So it's almost like proud mum that they've developed.
We all want the bare necessities of life. To have a place we can call home. To have a family that's happy and united. To have protection for your loved ones. To have a good job where you're valued. But life is full of ups and downs, and sometimes we all need a bit of friendly legal expertise to smooth things out. Visit our website to find out more. Wilson Brown Solicitors. We're all the help you need.
Hello, I'm Tamara Holland from Dot and Stripe. I'm marketing consultant for the children's activities sector. Well, I have actually worked in marketing now for over 20 years. I'm hiding the greys these days. But I started my business 4 years ago. I basically had a really long career in marketing, had my first child, and got completely fed up of that kind of corporate life, didn't have that flexibility that I needed, and I had a huge change. Everyone thought I was mad. I left and I bought a children's activities business, so I was running messy play events for under fives. It was bonkers. It took over my whole house, but I loved it, and it gave me that freedom to work, to be with my daughter. But very quickly I ended up running the marketing for the franchisor, because she could see the successes I was having in my local franchise and kind of had the experience and knowledge, and ended up training all the franchisees when they came in on marketing as well. And then just as the pandemic was just approaching in the distance, I sold my franchise. I was so lucky. But I then carried on doing the marketing for her in the background still. And once all the events stopped, it was just decimated the sector. There was no support for all of the franchises and independent businesses, because it's an unregulated sector. So all these businesses stopped overnight. Most of them couldn't go online, and all of these children suddenly didn't have events to go to as well. And it was my bum kick, really, to then set up my consultancy and start supporting businesses like mine who were trying to run kind of flexibly build their business around their family. And yeah, here I am 4 years on. So it's really only the last year that I've really focused in on my niche, children's activities businesses more. I'd been supporting lots of different businesses in the sector, and I shied away a little bit. I thought, oh, can I go in and say I'm this expert? And actually, I've got a really unique perspective because I've been there, I've done it, I've tried to sell spaces in events, and also had all this marketing knowledge. So the last year has just been a huge growth for me in my sector, and I'm working with big franchisors, franchisees, and lots of independent businesses in the sector as well. So Damo Rees 4 years old now, but when I very first started, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I think I set up within the first 2 weeks of that first lockdown. And actually, I really don't think I could have set up in the way I did had it not been for the pandemic, which sounds awful saying, but at the time I had a 6-month-old, so I was able to suddenly have him on my lap and have him in the background, and it didn't matter because everybody was in the same position as me. And I know it can be really difficult thinking about getting started in a business if you've got a young family, but I had this support from people locally who I'd met in networking, who were able to point me in the direction of where to start with training, with who could help me with a website. And it was just the perfect time for me to begin and also build my business in a way that allowed flexibility, which I've still carried on now 4 years on. I work 3 days at the moment, and in September 2024 my son starts school. So when I first started, it was all thinking, oh, well, when we get to this point, what will my business look like? So it's really exciting now thinking, I'm going to have all this extra time. I'm going to be a free woman. The last year in particular, because I've really focused in on my niche, has just seen huge growth in my business, and I've been really focused on brand awareness, so really raising my profile within my sector and showcasing that I have not just this marketing knowledge, but I've actually been where a lot of my ideal clients have been. So I really get it. I've literally got my hands dirty running Messy Play events. And so that's really helped position me to then now go and speak on big stages. This year I spoke at the Institute of Children's Activities Providers Conference, which is like one of the big sector events for my industry, on the biggest stage I've ever seen. It was incredible. I've been invited to blog and guest speak on podcasts, all within my sector, offered to do different trainings for different communities within my sector. So really focusing in on that brand awareness has really helped raise my profile. The year previously, 2023, I actually won Micro Business of the Year in Northamptonshire, and that was just so rewarding for me because, as I say, I work 3 days a week at the moment. We were talking about how, as a business owner, it's sometimes difficult to know which category that I fall in. I'm not quite a small business, I'm not quite a freelancer, and micro business felt like the perfect category for me to enter. So to then go on and win it was just so amazing, and I felt like I was really representing a lot of people in my sector who are micro businesses, because we are juggling around our family commitments, we're picking kids up from school, we're maybe working flexibly over the holidays, and still being able to grow a successful business. So that was hugely rewarding for me. Marketing plan is a great question, and in my sector specifically with children's activities providers, many of them might be coming in being a franchisee who may already have a bit of a focus and a plan and direction for their marketing. But one of the things I always say is, even as a franchise, even if you are part of a bigger business, your individual business will need its own plan and direction, because every business's ideal customers are different. The opportunities to market your business both online and offline are really different. So I'd say that it's really, really key starting point, having a real focus to guide you. A plan is, if you don't have a plan, you're basically wandering aimlessly. And that's what we can feel like in our businesses sometimes with marketing. We don't quite know where to start, and that's what a plan is going to give you. But one thing I do suggest is that you don't feel that you've got to create a plan that's necessarily 5 years long, even a year long. If you can plan even in a short-term basis like quarterly or even monthly, that's going to really help you and keep you moving forward as a small business particularly. So I'd say that to get you started, really focus in initially on what your goals are for your business, but who you are targeting is probably the most key part of your marketing plan and strategy. And not just saying, oh, I'm targeting parents, for example, being really, really specific about what type of parents and families, because that's going to help direct you where to focus in terms of marketing channels and the types of campaigns and activities that are going to appeal to them. So I am a bit biased because I'm a marketing consultant, but planning is essential, but don't feel like you've got to be kind of stuck into planning on a really long-term basis. Think more short-term, and that's going to help you keep moving forward. I would like to think that I'm pretty good at I call it the juggle struggle, because I work 3 days at the moment, work Monday to Wednesday and within school hours. Now this is what I tell people, but I work a lot more than that. I work evenings, I sometimes work weekends. But actually the sector that I work in, many of my clients are working in the day, so they want to have consultations and sessions in the evening. They want to have access to training and support maybe through the school holidays. And actually I like to offer my services in a really flexible way because I know that's what's going to suit my clients. So I think that opportunity to be able to pick my kids up from school, to go to the Christmas plays, to have holidays off with them is what success to me is in my business. Now, the fact that I'm going to have extra time coming up soon when my son starts school, I keep thinking I'm going to have all this freedom, but I'm still committed to picking them up from school every day. So I think that there's one thing that being in employment just couldn't give me, the flexibility that I needed without sacrificing my skill set, I think, because if I'd gone back into employment in a part-time basis, now I've got 20-year career in marketing, I'd have probably had to go in at a much lower level, kind of career level, and I know that wouldn't have been rewarding to me. And so being able to build my business in the way that suits me, work with the people I want, work the hours I want, I think that's winning. One of the biggest challenges I had at the start of 2023 was that my son's nursery went insolvent. So overnight I had no childcare, and I actually count my blessings that I was self-employed, or I am self-employed, because if I had been employed I would have had no childcare for 6 months. No employer would want that from their employee. I mean, I'm sure I would have been able to find a speedy solution, but I was actually able to really flexibly kind of still look after him in the background and manage my clients, because I build my business in a way that I have kind of a semi-passive income happening in the background with memberships and trainings, and not being committed to too much retained work, which means that I am stuck to working certain hours. So that was certainly one of the biggest challenges. I think imposter syndrome's been another big challenge. I think any business owner would feel that way, particularly when I was really thinking about focusing in on this new niche. Can I do it? Do I really have the knowledge? Can I really call myself an expert in this sector? And I should have done this a long time ago. As I say, it's been about a year now. I think that I realised that I've got a lot of skills to share with the people that I'm working with. And even if there's competitors in your sector, because we're not unique, there probably will be somebody doing what you're doing, is really believing that not everybody is for everybody, that my ideal clients come to me because they like me, they like my skill set, and that my competitor might not be for them, and that's fine. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. I'm a lot better now, 4 years in. I'm still here. I've made it through a pandemic, and I think that I've still probably got a way to go with it, but we'll get there as well. My biggest tip to starting a business is not being afraid to ask questions. I always say there's never a silly question. There's probably someone out there thinking exactly the same thing as you, and don't feel that you've got to just head to Google to find the answer. Reach out to people in your community, in your business community, like through networking or through your local business support. And also, sometimes it's better to stop going around in circles trying to find the answer and just get an expert to help you with it. For example, a lot of people that work in my sector will be getting mixed advice about marketing online. And I think it's always a good idea, of course I'm biased, but to reach out to somebody like myself who has that experience and that knowledge and can point you in the right direction. I would say I'm a great example of finally practicing what I preach, because when I first started, I was really focusing in on a lot of family focused businesses. And one of the things I always said to my clients is really being targeted to who you are trying to push your business to, not just saying, let's say I work with all parents, but being really, really specific about the characteristics of those people and really building a great customer persona. And that isn't just about focusing in on all the demographic information about them. It's thinking about really what makes them tick and focusing in on their pain points. So what do they find difficult? What are you able to help them with as a business owner to help solve their problems? And there's a great quote out there, which is, people don't care about your business. They care about their problems, and you need to be the solution that they're looking for. And I think I'm a great example of finally being really, really specific, really drilling down into, okay, I work with family focused businesses, but they're definitely children's activities providers, and they're going through a growth phase in their business, and they're really ready to look for marketing support, and I'm the solution that they're looking for. And I support those people in a lot of different ways, because I know that they're going to have different budgets. So I've created a bit of a ladder of ways I work with people. So some of the bigger brands might be working with me on a retained basis, or having support for their franchisees with marketing training. But then I also have a program which is all about helping activities providers start an email list called Capture and Convert. So it's all about helping capture more leads and convert people in their inbox. And this is perfect for people who have no idea how to get started with growing an email list. They might be sending a monthly email newsletter, and that's about it. And I really kind of hit them with the hard truth that if you're only emailing once a month, then you're only emailing 12 times a year, which is not enough in terms of email marketing. And your email list is one of your most powerful assets as a business owner. And then I also have more budget options. I have a community called the Bright Futures Marketing Club, which is for children's activities providers with guest experts, training, templates, lots of top tips specific for the sector. So I think really looking at what my clients find difficult and then offering them the right solutions based on their budget, and having all of the right ways to direct them, rather than necessarily having a service that doesn't quite fit with your ideal customer. So I think having that really clear idea of who you're targeting and what they need is really key to when you get started.